What's going on to all my movie fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new early Netflix movie review, and today we're breaking down the new action comedy starring not one, not two, but three of the biggest action stars working in Hollywood today. We're talking about Red Notice, which is a film I got to check out the other night, and I'm really excited to let you all know what I thought about the movie, but more importantly, is it worth checking out on Netflix this Friday? We're breaking it all down here in this spoiler-free review, but before we do so, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert for when I drop new content. If you enjoyed this spoiler-free movie review, well, make sure to like and share the review. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate the support. And in those comments, let me know if Red Notice was a film you were excited for, but more importantly, once you've seen it, what did you think about it? Let's talk about our three main actors. Did you enjoy them? Did you think they had good chemistry? Did you enjoy the action, the comedy? Do you want to see more from this franchise? But let's talk about the other side of the coin. Were you disappointed? Did you not have a good time? Do you not want to see more from them? Let's talk about it in the comments below. So for me personally, going into Red Notice, yes, I was excited to see The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, Gal Gadot in one action comedy heist film because I'm a fan of all three of them. I like action, I like comedy. So what did I think about it? Starting off with my positives. First and foremost, I have to say, just a little asterisk, I personally didn't go into Red Notice expecting the best, well-woven, put-together script. I knew that all three of our actors were plot-proof, that nothing probably was going to happen to these movie stars in regards to the narrative of the story and stakes of the film. I wanted to go into this to see The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, Deadpool, Black Adam. How are they going to have a good time? Will I be enjoyed with them? Will I have a good laugh? Starting off with my positives, let's talk about those three leads. Starting off with Ryan Reynolds and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who they've actually been in a movie together before, not as the leads of the film, and particularly Ryan Reynolds with his kind of, I guess, spoiler alert for a film that came out 3 years ago, and Hobbs and Shaw, and we'll probably see him in the sequel. You saw the chemistry, the back and forth, the straight man being The Rock, the more goofy man being Ryan Reynolds. Some of that flavor makes its way into this film for almost 2 hours. And I gotta say, it's the actors, man. They have the charm, they have the charisma. I know some people are tired of The Rock doing the same thing, same with Ryan Reynolds, but I look at them very similar to how I look up two of my favorite actors growing up, in, you know, watching them films in the 80s and growing up in the 90s. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and I mean, I can go on and on about some comedians, Adam Sandler, Jim Carrey. There's a lot of actors that do the same thing. They obviously have different names in the movies, and there's different, you know, directors and whatnot, but you like the actors, and I like the actors in this film, and I thought that they had really good chemistry. Again, The Rock is kind of, he did this earlier this year with Jungle Cruise, where he isn't necessarily the quote-unquote hero that we know him to be. He can't beat up everyone. He's not looking for a fight entirely in Jungle Cruise, and the same could be said in his character as John, as an FBI agent, who really isn't like an FBI agent that wants to use his hands. He wants to use his brains to catch these thieves, one being Ryan Reynolds, who is in this film. So I kind of like when The Rock kind of plays against the stereotype that he can beat up everyone, that he has to use his fists to get things done. So I kind of like what he gives us in this film. Like I said, similar to Jungle Cruise. And Ryan Reynolds, he's doing his thing, man. But I am not at the point yet that I am like completely tired of the Ryan Reynolds skit. It's like, yes, we've seen it in every single film, but I like him, man. I have a good time with Ryan Reynolds. And Ryan Reynolds in this film, as he plays Nolan Booth, who is the second best thief in the world. And we'll talk about Gal Gadot, who's number one. But I enjoyed just their back and forth. Ryan Reynolds always puts a smile on my face. Not every joke lands, but I find myself just rooting for his character, even when he's like, I guess, quote-unquote, the bad guy in this film in a certain extent, or the guy that's stealing things. And I don't know, I just really had a fine, good time with these two going back and forth. But that does bring me to Gal Gadot, who, you know, Wonder Woman, love her in that role. I've liked her in some other things I've seen her in. She's fine in this movie. Out of the three main leads, she didn't really, like, wow me as the other two did. And we'll get to Gal a little bit later. But for the most part, I have to say, I'm one of those people that I can see when actors are having a good time, riffing off each other, going back and forth, enjoying each other's company, and you can see that from these three main characters. And that brings it to the director of this film, who is Rawson Marshall Thurber, who's actually worked with The Rock for half of his filmography. he's a certain director that doesn't take a ton of risks, but I have fun with his films, and I thought that he did a good job of kind of wrangling in these three big egos, these three big megastars, and kind of doing the things that we've seen in past films, whether it be Skyscraper or Central Intelligence and some of that humor that we get from Dodgeball. So I like him as a director. I thought he did a good job there. In regards to some of the action beats, the comedy beats, it's stereotypical. Again, Netflix throws money at these films. I believe it had a $200 million budget, which 60 million went to the actors alone. But I thought for the most part, the action was done in a pretty comparable manner. I was not like blown away by the action, but at the same time, oh, that was pretty impressive. Same goes with the comedy beats, mostly coming from Ryan Reynolds. So for the most part, does this film break new mold? No. But I had a good time with these actors, which kind of brings me into some of my criticism with the movie. It's not breaking new ground, which is nothing I was expecting, but at the same time, I knew I had to kind of suspend my disbelief, but there were many times in this film where I'm just looking at myself like, really, The Rock's getting hit by a bull and we're just going to be okay with that? You're telling me this guy is shooting at them and no one dies? Sometimes you kind of have to roll your eyes, which brings me to some of the points of the film. This film just comes in right around under 2 hours, and there were multiple times I found myself on my phone. I found myself kind of checking out because narratively speaking, this film isn't the most engaging. I do respect some of the homages to some of the films, Indiana Jones, National Treasure, some other films, heist films, Ocean's 11. They tilt its hat to those films and don't really reinvent the wheel in those narratives. And also, too, mention we have three of these big actors, one being Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. There is a moment where she has kind of a Wonder Woman moment, which I found to be funny. Ryan Reynolds has this little mask on that kind of remind me of his time as Green Lantern. So there are moments where the film is very self-aware of what it's doing, very self-aware that the audience has to kind of put this brain aside and just kind of enjoy this kind of nonsense. But it was just a lot of those moments that, again, just was like, can we get a little bit more innovative? Can we get a little bit more smart in the narrative here? So there are a lot of those moments in the film. And I mentioned a little bit early how I enjoyed Ryan Reynolds, I enjoyed The Rock, and I enjoyed Gal, but her as the kind of pseudo villain, the bishop, the person behind it all, I think Gal, just to me, hasn't like fully ranged herself as an actress. Again, I am completely sold as her as Diana Prince, as Wonder Woman, and I've seen her in the Fast and Furious movies. She plays that role well, but when she kind of switches it up a little bit, I don't think she's had enough time to kind of really stretch her range as an actress. So there are moments where I'm just like, Gal, you could have hit that moment a little bit differently. And not the film is making her to be like this menacing villain, but I just wish that she could have hit some of those beats a little bit more and gave it a little bit more believability for me personally. And then the last thing that kind of comes as a criticism, again, brain shut off. But when you get to the third act, there's twists and turns, and it's a ridiculous third act, and there's this big reveal that I'm not going to lie, I didn't see it coming, but I found it to be a little bit cheesy the way that the film kind of presents this, and they kind of open this door for a second film, which I'm not going to get into the spoilers here, but hey, those are my positives, those are my negatives. Before I give you all my overall thoughts of this film, I'll let you know if it's worth checking out on Netflix. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell, that way you don't miss any of my future reviews. Overall, Red Notice is, yes, it's a nonsensical, throwaway action, big Netflix film that we've come to respect since they've been making these movies, but I have to say this film is heavily reliant on three of its main stars, and for the most part, I was having a good time with them. I might be biased because I'm a fan of them as actors, but I do think that they did bring something to the role that kept me invested, kept me engaged. There were some funny moments, there were some cool action moments, there were some silly moments, there were some script issues, there was a third act that was just a little bit too ridiculous for my taste, but at the end of the day, I was entertained, and that's what I wanted to get from this film. So with that being said, was it perfect? No. Was it terrible? No. I'm going to give this film, Red Notice, a 3 out of 5. I don't necessarily think it's something that, I believe it had a theatrical run on November 5th. I don't think it's like you had to see it in theaters to enjoy it. When it comes available on Netflix this Friday, give it a watch. And when you do, let me know what you thought of it. Your pros, your cons, your positives, your negatives. Do you want to see more from the kind of open door they leave at the end? Let's talk about it in the comments below. If you stuck around to this point in the video, I appreciate every single one of you all. Before you leave, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss any of my future reviews. Hope you enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe. As you can see on the screen now, subscribe to my channel. Check out my other content. We'll catch you in the next video.